How would you compose a theme for a thief in Final Fantasy? The class has been a staple of the series since the very first game, usually defined by high speed, agility, and the primary role of stealing items from enemies. When you think of other thieves in the series, like Riku from Final Fantasy X or Yuffie from 7, you might expect a music that is fast, sneaky, or deeply rooted on their unique combat skills. But Zidane Tribal is different. He's a charming, good-hearted rogue who prefers the term treasure hunter, a loving homage to the great Lord Cole from Final Fantasy VI. His outward personality is energetic, confident, a little mischievous, and always ready for an adventure. Nobuo Uematsu didn't write a sneaky, shadowy track. He wrote an upbeat, dynamic anthem. He had to score a character defined by the Japanese keyword Shintei, a word composed of the kanji meaning truth, genuineness, and also the kanji of clarity, understanding. Beneath this carefree exterior lies a character of profound sincerity, with an unwavering belief in helping others and a clear sense of what is right. I'm Emiliano Giaquinta, and this is a deep dive into the adventurous heart of Final Fantasy IX, Zidane Tribal. Let's take a look. Before we dive into the analysis, there's an important note to make. Zidane's theme is maybe the less utilized track of the game, which really brings a big question mark. Why? Many fans think that his theme is You Are Not Alone or even A Place to Call Home. While I will not deep dive on this, given there's already an amazing analysis done by the Gaming Bard, which you can check the link in the bio. As a quick thought, let's picture Zidane's theme as the depiction of Zidane's external personality, while You're Not Alone or A Place to Call Home do reflect different internal struggles Zidane does face. Let's take a look at his assigned keyword, which is virtue, or Shintei in Japanese. It is composed of two kanjis, the first one meaning truth or genuineness, and the second one clarity or understanding. This speaks a lot of his true nature, an unwavering belief in helping others, and a clear sense of what is right. As we will hear, his theme sounds slightly childish and slightly energetic and emotionally very frontal. So, let's take a look at how Uematsu structures Zidane's theme. It is a dynamic composition in D major with an interesting ABAC form that captures his public swagger. The piece has an introduction, as I said, a section A, B, A repeats, and then we will hear a very extended section C, which I divided in 3 parts, which is basically a very long solo of woodwinds. Now, at the beginning we have a very fast tempo, 123 BPM. The theme kicks off instantly with a fast military snare drum beat, which is supported by a bass drum, and the full string section immediately establishes a sense of action and adventure. Let's hear the percussion first. So, military sounding, very fast, and once we add the score, the full score with the strings, the upper strings play this. So, staccato bass harmony moving through different chord shapes to keep the harmony moving. They are supported by the lower strings. They provide a powerful rhythmic and harmonic foundation. All together so far sounds like this. Okay. The harmony played by the staccato string section is built on a simple but very effective variations of D major and G major chords. The song is in D major, so basically we are playing between the root and the fourth. The bass strings, however, create a subtle harmonic tension by alternating between D and A. So when they are played under the G major chord, for example, it creates this more complex G over A sound. Over this, we hear this alternation between D and G that are concluded with an E minor and an A major, which is basically a 2/5 of the scale of the key. So at the beginning of the section A, the melody enters, and it's carried by a unique unison of a tin whistle and a high synth, a combination that sounds like Call to a Kid's Adventure. Let's listen to it in isolation. Now notice the phrasing. The melody itself is Adventurous, starting on the 5th degree of the scale, A, but then it ends its phrases also there, but an octave lower, creating a feeling of openness and a desire to move forward rather than to rest on the tonic. Let's hear this all together. Now, the tin whistle and the synthesizer is my interpretation of what I hear. You could also think that it's a marimba. If you listen to the original track, each track plays one pan to the left, one pan to the right, so you can draw your own conclusion. But it feels very childish. It feels like the beginning of a movie for kids. So the section A, it's very childish, and it showcases this carefree attitude that Zidane has. Of course, section B should show a different perspective, and it does. Let's hear it. Okay, it sounds already more dramatic and more solemn, right? I divided section B into two smaller sections. The first one is what we just heard. We cannot hear the synth anymore, we cannot hear the whistle, and the strings and percussions are there to interrupt the happy trail, adding a bit of drama. It's interesting the effects of the violins playing a quasi-echo phrasing, right? We have just the strings we hear. This specific technique that the second violins are playing, it's what I call the echoing. And it sounds only like it sounds thanks to the whole string section playing together. Now, the harmony becomes darker and more complex. It features a chord cluster of C, D, E, and G, which can be interpreted as C add 9, especially as the bass line plays a lot of G to C. It gives the feel that the home, the key, is C, while the theme is in D, right? So as the flat 7 chord in the key of D major, this creates a dramatic contrast to the simple optimism that the section A had, hinting that the troubles Zidane must face regarding his identity, for example, are being portrayed with this music. This is followed by an A major chord, which doesn't resolve to the root, but again to the mentioned C, deepening Zidane's turmoil. Cool, let's listen to that. So, that second part we just heard, the lead is taken by a solo French horn, with counter melodies played by a flute and a clarinet. They slowly bring us back to the repetition of the section A. To be noted, I labeled it as section B, but it doesn't build up a clear motif, and both part 1 and 2 are kind of disconnected, so it could be also be thought as a bridge. Let's hear it again. Lastly, I would like again to showcase the distribution of the melody between the horn, the flute, and the oboe. Sorry, the clarinet on B flat. It's very simple, but it gives different colors to the passage. A little of counterpoint kind of sound. After section B, we have a repetition of section A. Very catchy, very energetic. And then we land on section C. Prepare, because it's a long section. The music shifts to a beautiful and lyrical passage. This part of the theme actually represents Zidane's true, sincere nature, his virtue. Let's hear it. Okay, you can hear it, right? It features a new soaring melody played by the flute solo, accompanied by the wood block, and also high strings. Observe how simple yet beautiful the solo melody is. It is played supported by a mix of sustained notes and triplets. Also, an electric bass supports both the rhythm and the harmony. The spacing between the first phrase and the second is a simple but clever way of giving breath to the composition. It is a very common mistake for a beginner composer to not let the lead melody rest. I'm talking about this specifically. You have a whole measure of silence of the solo, and then the harmony supports the new phrase of the melody. If we take a look at the score and hear the flute alone, you will see again how it's basically sustained note, some triplets, sustained note, some triplets, and it just walks through the different chord progressions. Observe how, in the repetition also, the first section of the solo is identical while the ending changes. This time it lands of the scale degree 5, which is an A. All together. Honestly, I really like the measure that connects the phrases and how simple the instrumentation here is. Let's hear it again in both cases on the end of the first phrase here. And here. So very simple resource, but it works perfectly. And also it's a very weird combination, right? We have a bass guitar and then violin 1, second violin, and the violas playing together, which is of course not very typical for an orchestra, but it just works well. The chord progression here is rich and emotional, beginning with a subtle deceptive resolution from A to V minor before moving through a classic sequence. The first 5 chords, the A, V minor, F sharp, and G, actually mimic the legendary Canon of Pachelbel. This sequence is considered one of the most satisfying and emotionally resonant in Western music. Now, let's hear it again to see if you can hear there the Canon. Cool. Let's say Uematsu borrowed those, but it just fits very well. Then we move to the second part of the solo, which adds a simple counter melody done by a horn and a trumpet. The flute plays mainly sustained notes, and the counter melody, as expected, is active when the melody is not. So it's basics counterpoint, right? But it's simple but yet very elegant. We hear the flute, then the counterpoint comes, then the flute is active again, what I'm trying to showcase is you don't need much to create a moving melody, right? Of course, it depends on the type of music you are trying to compose, but I think this is a very good showcase of simple elegance when building a solo passage. This section continues a bit longer, and then we have a third section. Let's hear the ending of the second part. Cool. The section C, part 3, adds something very interesting to the mix, which is an electric piano. Also, we hear the complete combination of a oboe, a clarinet, and a bassoon now playing the melody. So the oboe and the clarinet are playing an octave apart, and the bassoon is harmonizing by playing either the root, the third, or the fifth of the chord. They achieve a fuller sound than what we could hear before with just the flute, and it's not complicating the harmony at all. It's simple but effective. You might know it from orchestration classes if you ever took, but it's not a good idea to have the oboe, any of the woodwinds basically playing in unison, because it basically mats the upper partials of the woodwinds, and well, basically they sound worse than if they would be playing alone. Even though this is synthesized, I think it was a very good approach that Uematsu had for this composition. Let's hear again the oboe, clarinet, and bassoon. To that, let's add the electric piano. And then all together. Okay, then we hear some percussion and the theme repeats. Thanks for watching. In the next episode, we'll wrap up with Final Fantasy IX with Garnet's theme. I hope you liked the series so far, and let me know, do you think that Zidane's theme is the real theme of Zidane, or you just prefer You Are Not Alone or A Place to Call Home? Leave a comment and see you around!